The first type of elasticity of demand that we need to study is PED, or price elasticity of demand. Price elasticity of demand. As discussed earlier, for each type of elasticity of demand, we need to know at least four things. Those four things are: number one, definition; number two, formula; number three, interpretation of sign; and number four is interpretation of magnitude. So beginning with definition, the definition for price elasticity of demand would be, okay, before I even write the definition, one thing that this model that we build, as in how to study the price elasticity of demand, we will use exactly the same model to study other types of elasticities of demand. So if you understand this model correctly, if you get the concepts right for this one, you can automatically replicate those to the other types of elasticities of demand that we study. Okay, so definition would be PED is measure of responsiveness of quantity demanded of a product to the change in price of that product. Okay, another thing, I've used abbreviations over here. That is just to write things in a concise manner. Otherwise, while you are practicing for your exams, or if you are attempting your actual exam, you won't be using these abbreviations, you will be using their full forms. Okay, so if price of a product changes, it changes the quantity demanded. The quantity demanded of that product would also change, but by how much? So when we study the relationship between the two, that price was changed by this percentage, for example, there was a 2% increase in price of a product. What was the resultant increase in the quantity demanded of that product? Through the price elasticity of demand, we studied that relationship. Okay, so the formula that we'll be using to calculate the PED of the product is percentage change in quantity demanded divided by percentage change in price of the product. Okay, as told earlier, one thing the students that need to be mindful of is that we take percentage change in quantity demanded and percentage change in price, not simply change in price or change in quantity demanded. It's always percentage change. So this would be the formula, and to work out the numerical problems that you get for your exams, you can do them. For example, the percentage change in quantity demanded. How is it calculated? It's calculated Q2 quantity demanded after price change minus Q1, that gives you the difference in the price, divided by the original price or the initial price, multiply by 100. Simple formula for calculating percentage change, 6 or 7 class maths. Next we have got percentage change in price of the product, that is calculated by P2 minus P1, later price minus initial price. So this would give us the price difference, divided by the original or the initial price, multiplied by 100. So through this we calculate the percentage change in price, through this we calculate the percentage change in quantity demanded, and we put these values over here and we get the answer for PED. So the next thing that we have to study about PED is the interpretation of the sign. I'd like you to pause the video over here for a second and think about it, whether the sign of the PED for any product, would it be positive, would it be negative, it could be both, it would be just one of the two. Pause the video and think about it for a second. So the sign of the PED would always be negative. Sign of PED will always be negative. And why is that? Because price and quantity demanded of a product, they are inversely related, they are inversely proportional. So if the price of a product it has a positive change, the quantity demanded will have a negative. The price of the product goes up, the quantity demanded goes down, and if the price goes down, the quantity demanded of the product goes up. So either we will have in this formula, either we will have a positive change in the numerator and a negative change in the denominator, or we will have a negative change in numerator and a positive change in denominator. In both cases, the answer will always be negative. Okay, so while doing the calculations, once we get the answer, usually to interpret the what it means, that what magnitude have we got, to interpret the meaning of the magnitude, we usually ignore the negative sign in PED. So interpretation of magnitude. Interpretation of magnitude, PED has got certain ranges of value. For example, PED of a product could be 0. PED of a product could be more than 0 but less than 1. PED of a product could be equal to 1. PED of a product could be more than 1. And PED could be infinity as well. So let's look at what all these values mean. If PED of a product is equal to 1, we say that the demand is unitary elastic. This is the case of unitary elasticity of demand. Okay, when do we get the value of 1 or the PED equals to 1? When the percentage change in quantity demanded is equal to the percentage change in price. Only then we will get the answer 1. So for example, for a product, if its price declines by 5% and as a result its quantity demanded rises by 5%, the answer will be 1. Or if its price goes up by, let's say, 8% and as a result the quantity demanded goes down by 8%, you'll again get the answer 1. So to get for the value of PED 1, there should be the same value for the percentage change in price and the same value for percentage change in quantity demanded. Okay. For PED more than 1, obviously we'll get this answer when numerator is greater than the denominator. When numerator is greater than the denominator. So if we have the price of a product going down by 5%, but as a result the quantity demanded of the product, let's say, goes up by 10%. So the PED would be equal to 2, and we can say that the quantity demanded or the demand for this product is price elastic. Why? Because it has increased or it has changed by more than the percentage change in price. So the price changes by 5%, the demand changes by more than 5%. The price changes by, let's say, 2%, 3%, whatever percent, the quantity demanded changes by more than the percentage change in price. So in that case, even if it were slightly greater than 1, even if it were 5.1, the quantity demanded increase in quantity demanded due to a 5% decline in price of the product, even then the answer will be more than 1 and the PED of the product will be elastic. Okay, okay. So, so for PED more than one, we have got elastic, that the quantity demanded is elastic to a change in price. When will we get the answer of PED less than 1? PED less than 1 will be when there is a lesser change in quantity demanded as compared to the change in price of the product. So, for example, if the price goes down by 5%, but the quantity demanded rises by only 4%, so definitely the answer will be less than 1. And in such cases, such demand or such products, we say that their demand is price inelastic. The demand does not change by as much as the change in price. So if we have got the price of a product going up by 10% and the demand goes down by only 5%, we'll say that the price has risen by 10%, the demand has not fallen as much as the rise in price. So such demand is called price inelastic. This would be the case of inelastic demand or price inelastic. Okay. When will we get the value of 0? When will the PED of a product be 0? The PED of a product will be 0 when regardless of the percentage change in price of the product. When regardless of the percentage change in price of the product, let's say there is a 10% rise in the product, the change in quantity demanded is 0%. The quantity demanded does not change at all. Only if we have got 0 in numerator will we get the answer of 0. So the price goes down by 15%, still the quantity demanded remains unchanged. So regardless whether the price goes up, the price goes down, the quantity demanded does not change at all. This will be the case of perfectly inelastic demand. It does not respond at all to a change in price. This will be the case of perfectly inelastic demand. Inelastic. Okay. Also, let's look at the graph for this one. For perfectly inelastic demand, the graph would be something like this. We take quantity on the x-axis, we take price on the y-axis for all diagrams of demand and supply. Okay, so the demand curve, instead of downward sloping the way it is for the normal demand curve, the demand curve for a perfectly inelastic good would be a vertical line. So if we charge this price P1, we raise the price to P2, we raise the price to P3, we lower it down to P4, regardless of the level of price, the quantity demanded remains unchanged. So this is the graph for perfectly inelastic demand. Jordan, perfectly inelastic demand. Okay, so for last one, perfectly elastic demand. Okay, for perfectly inelastic demand, what would be the example of goods which have perfectly inelastic demand? In real life, the example which comes closest to this concept of perfectly inelastic demand is that of life-saving drugs. For example, if you have a close relative who is severely ill, and the doctor they prescribe, let's say, 3 capsules or 2 injections of some medicine, and you won't say that if the price of the product is too high, I would just give him 1 injection, or if the price of the product is too low, maybe I'll just give him half an injection or half a capsule. No, you'll give him the quantity that is prescribed. You won't change that quantity because you have to save the life of that person, regardless of the price of the product. The price goes up, the price goes down, you'll just demand the same quantity no matter what. So life-saving drugs are the closest example of perfectly inelastic demand that we see in our real life. Okay, so this last case of PED is infinity, this is perfectly elastic demand. And let's look at when we get the answer of infinity. So whenever solving a fraction, we will always get the answer 0 when there is we will get always get the answer of infinity when there is 0 in the denominator. So that means that these products, if they have a price change, let's say the price rises by a very small percentage, a very small, so small that it almost approaches 0. Even this small percentage change in price would cause a percentage change in quantity demanded. Let's say the price goes up by this much, the quantity declines by, the quantity demanded declines by, let's say, 10%. So even for such a small change, if it is causing a small change in price of almost 0, if it is causing a change in the quantity demanded of the product, the answer will be uh, infinity. The price elasticity of demand for such products will be infinity. The real life examples of such products, are perhaps very low value candies or bubble gum if somebody uses them. So let's say for a rupee or two, or for a cent or two, if you get those bubble gums, just a chewing habit if someone has got, and let's say the price of that product, you must have noticed that all such bubble gums, all such candies, they are almost always priced equally. And if any of them slightly raises their price, people would automatically shift to the other one, because this isn't something which has a lot of brand loyalty, or people would stick to them. It's just a showing habit that someone has got, and just to time pass, he is using this product. And all the products, all the substitutes, they were priced equally. So if the price of one of the one which you were using, and it rises slightly, you'd shift to the other one. So that's the closest example of perfectly elastic demand that I could think of. The graph for perfectly elastic demand will be, again, quantity on x-axis, price on y-axis. Okay, so the graph would be a horizontal line. So on this price P1, we have got all the demand, but if we raise the price even slightly to P2, all the demand would vanish. All the demand would vanish. So all the demand that exists only exists at P1 or lower prices. Any increase, a slight increase in price demand would make any slight increase in price would make all the demand go away. Okay, so that gives us the first holistic picture of the concept of PED. There are two further things with regards to PED which a student must understand, and they are a business relevance. Having learned all these, okay, business relevance. So if a business gets to know the PED of a product, how could it use it to its benefit? So the knowledge of the PED of a product, how could a business use that to its advantage? And the second thing that students further need to understand is, why is PED of a product elastic or inelastic? Why is demand for a product elastic or inelastic? Can we change PED of why? Okay, why demand is elastic or inelastic? Are there any factors which determine whether the demand for a product will be elastic or inelastic? Can we change those factors? Can we make the demand for the product that we are selling more elastic or more inelastic? To what extent are we able to, what are the factors which can make this go one way or the other, and what influence does a business have on those factors. So these two topics, they would be covered in a separate video.